What makes a young lion cub, without legitimate blood, dare to challenge the king who once raised him? And then, when all enemies have been eliminated, will the throne on the savanna truly belong to the strongest? Or is it merely the beginning of another bloody cycle? A bloody journey to the throne, survival instinct, and maternal love. On the parched plains of Serengeti, where the sun scorches the earth every morning, a lion dynasty stands on the brink of collapse. The Sun Pride, one of the largest lion prides in the region, was once ruled by Raji, a majestic, battle-hardened male. Under his claws, order was maintained by strength and fear. But within that dynasty, a smoldering fire of hatred had been nurtured for years. Zain, a young male lion whose father was unknown, grew up under Raji's protection as an adopted son. But the blood in Zain's veins wasn't the king's. It was the blood of someone Raji had long since killed, a defeated challenger. Zain grew up in the shadow of Raji. The king who had once treated him like his own son. But even before Zain uttered his first roar, the dynasty bore an unhealable crack. Back then, Raji was young, having just ascended the throne after defeating the two previous ruling males. He was a ruthless warrior, skilled at exploiting fear to keep the pride in check. The lionesses submitted not out of love, but for survival. Among them was Naira, the strongest and most intelligent female in the pride. Initially, Naira was Raji's official mate. They hunted together, and together they produced the first cubs of the new dynasty. But as Raji became increasingly consumed by power, he became distant and cold. Naira was no longer the center of the pride, but merely a part of his large harem that he no longer cared about. During a harsh, dry season, when the herd was torn apart by drought and shrinking territory, Naira was left behind with several young at the edge of the border. Without priority access to water, and without the protection of the males loyal to Raji, she, once the center of the entire dynasty, was now a fading shadow under the scorching sun. It was there, on the brink of survival and oblivion, that she met a strange, tall, gentle, and mysterious male. There was no growling, no intimidation, just two weary souls sheltering from the sun under the same acacia grove. Finding a moment of peace amidst a world of danger. From that encounter, Zayn was born. When Raji discovered the truth, his anger flared up. But instead of killing Zayn, as was the unwritten rule among the males, he let the child live as a punishment for Naira. It was ostracized from the main pride, surviving only through its old blood relationship with Raji. Naira's pain stemmed not only from Raji but also from the coldness of the lionesses. They viewed it as a traitor, a disruptor of the pride's order. No one openly expelled it, but the cold gaze and isolation in all its activities made it live like a shadow. Zayn, a child burdened with both guilt and expectation, grew up between two worlds. Despised by the pride, yet kept by Raji as an experiment in loyalty. And it was in the silence of its abandoned mother that Zayn gradually understood the source of its own anger. Raji never considered Zayn a threat, at least not initially. In his eyes, Zayn was merely a docile shadow, raised with discipline and caution. But what Raji didn't realize was that, through each hunting season, each share of the spoils, Zayn had learned not only how to survive, but how to observe the workings of power. Zayn didn't growl to fight for food, nor did he engage in the show of force like other young males. He was quiet, and it was this quietness that made him unpredictable. The lionesses, who had once silently sided with Naira, began to see him differently. No longer a bearer of bloodline stain, but an independent, strong individual, taciturn but decisive. When Raji began to weaken, his steps slowed, his old scars resurfaced, and the pride became unstable. Zayn didn't immediately step forward. He waited. He measured the strength of the pride. His own strength, and most importantly, he measured the hearts of the females. There was no conspiracy, no plan. When a male is strong enough and the alpha weakens, a replacement process occurs. In many lion prides, this happens without warning. And in the sun pride, that process was about to begin. One morning, as the sun rose above the horizon, Zane walked into the center of the territory, where Raji was resting with the lionesses. There was no roar, no threat. He simply advanced toward the center. The battle began. Raji fell, his neck and chest riddled with deep wounds. Zane did not celebrate. The lionesses stood silently, watching. No one approached him, nor did they flee. A state of anticipation enveloped the entire pride. In that silent crowd, Naira stood still, neither intervening nor showing emotion. But her calm presence, the one who had once been cast out, now witnessing the fall of her former dethronement, served as a silent confirmation of the legitimacy of this transfer of power. That very day, Zane performed the first act of a newly crowned male, eliminating the offspring of his predecessor. The lion cubs, Raji's offspring, were purged one by one. This is common behavior among male lions during a power shift. Eliminating the cubs prompts the females to return to their estrus cycle, allowing the new male to produce his offspring. But one was spared. A small, trembling cub nestled in the nearby bushes. When Zane approached, it neither roared nor retreated. It simply stared at him with its dark golden eyes. Zane paused, silently, then turned and walked away. No one understood why. Perhaps it was because of that gaze. Perhaps it was because he himself had once been a survivor. The cub's mother lion quickly led it away from the pride in the night. Under the moonlight, their small footsteps disappeared towards the edge of the grassland where new stories would be written, as the savanna changed hands once more. And amidst that whirlwind of instinct, Naira neither stopped nor left. She understood the laws of the savanna. When she looked at Zayn, her gaze was not merely that of a lioness who had once survived. But it is also the story of a mother witnessing her once rejected child officially rise to the throne and change the destiny of an entire dynasty. While the lions were still mending their wounds, another sound crept through the acacia bushes, light, fast, and steady. It wasn't a roar. It was the sound of the Kiba pack of African wild dogs running. In another corner of the Serengeti, miles away from where the lions fought, another universe operated according to its own rules. No power struggles, no overthrow, no bloodshed. The Kiba pack was a symbol of discipline and unity. Individuals moved as a single entity. They were the most successful hunters in Africa. Taro, the alpha male, didn't dominate by strength. Isla, the alpha female, didn't need to prove herself through fighting. They led the pack together with subtle signals, trust, and clear biological roles. In the afternoon breeze, there was the smell of meat, and a young antelope, separated from its mother after the morning lion chaos, became the target. No shouting, no growling. The pack of wild dogs fanned out. They didn't run at top speed, but with the endurance of tireless pursuit machines. There was no spectacular slaughter, just efficiency. Food was divided in order. The young were eaten first, the weak were prioritized. No one was left behind. But Serengeti wasn't just lions and wild dogs. On the horizon, thick shadows were approaching a pack of hyenas, smelling blood. The scent of meat wafted across the hot ground, an invisible invitation to those who sniffed out opportunities. Not long after the wild dogs retreated, the Dhaka hyena pack appeared, of all sizes, led by an old female named Noru, with a long scar running from her eye to her shoulder. They didn't come to hunt, they came to plunder. And in the wild, that was nothing bad. Noru sniffed at the remaining organs, then let out her characteristic shrill laugh, not of joy, but to summon her pack. In an instant, the entire pack gathered like soldiers at a celebratory feast. But then, a strange hiss echoed from the edge of the bushes. Taro had returned. Unlike lions, wild dogs rarely turn back once they've retreated. But the Kiba pack had a reason. The remaining part of the antelope, the most important part, hadn't been spared yet. And they wouldn't accept losing it all to those who hadn't broken a sweat. Two worlds confronted each other. One side was order, speed, and discipline. The other was chaos, stubbornness, and sheer numbers. Neither side retreated. Taro stepped forward, neither barking nor growling. Isla followed closely behind. The young dogs stood behind, low to the ground, but their eyes showed no fear, only waiting for orders. Noru let out a low growl. The hyenas didn't know when to stop, but they also didn't want casualties. They followed the power of numbers, but understood the danger of speed and coordination. With a single leap, 3 wild dogs attacked from the flank. A hyena was flipped over, unable to react. The pack of hyenas roared, but couldn't organize a counterattack. The confrontation lasted only 2 minutes. No one died, no blood was spilled. As the last footsteps of the wild dogs disappeared behind the grassy slope, the Dhaka hyenas silently retreated. No laughter, only the rustling sound of thick hooves scraping through the bushes. The clash was a failure, but none of them considered it over. For hyenas, every battle is a test, never an end. Dhaka is not a motley group, it is a clan, led by Noru, the oldest alpha male, who controls not only food but also bloodline, something the hyenas value as much as life itself. In spotted hyena society, the offspring reign supreme. Matrilineal lineage is strictly maintained. Noru has 6 offspring, and Gina, the second child, is grown, strong, and ambitious. In spotted hyena society, the offspring dominate, and blood hierarchy is the key to all privileges: the right to eat, the right to mate, the right to live. But Gina doesn't want to wait until Noru succumbs to old age. She wants power now, while her body is still vigorous and support is on her side. Under the scorching midday sun, while most of the pack rests under low trees to avoid the heat, Gina begins to act. There is no darkness to hide. No rain to soften the earth. Everything happens in the open and uncompromising light. Gina had prepared long ago. Her half-sisters, the young males always hungry for a role, all are ready. Noru, the old leader, lay by the edge of the den, her body covered in dust and sand, her eyes dull with exhaustion after weeks of starvation. No one expected the attack to come in broad daylight. But for Gina, this was the perfect moment. Her mother's shadow no longer long enough to cover the entire pack. The attack began without a signal. In the world of hyenas, the downfall of an old leader is not a tragedy, but an inevitability. By afternoon, Noru hobbled away from her familiar territory. No one held her back, only the sound of the wind and streaks of sunlight on her back, the final traces of a rain. On the highest mound beside the den, Gina stood. No declaration of her position was needed. The young females bowed their heads. The young males cautiously approached, waiting for a small sign to allow them to breed. In broad daylight, where the light could not hide anything, a new reign began, and in Serengeti, power doesn't change with the seasons, it changes with claws. As the last rays of the setting sun slanted across the dusty slopes, the sounds from the hyena den faded away. A new order had formed, and the eastern Serengeti was once again enveloped in the dry wind blowing through the low acacia bushes. But not far away, to the southwest, a name that seemed to have been forgotten began to return silently, as certain as a whisper in the sunlight. The Sun Pride, once the kingdom of Raji, was now only a shadow of its former glory. Under the reign of Zayn, who had seized the throne with blood and maintained it with solitude, the lion pride had lost its cohesion. The departure of many cubs, the lack of a new generation, and the harsh, dry seasons had weakened the pride. It was in this void that a strange figure appeared on the edge of the territory, tall, young, with a mane not yet thick, but with eyes of a brilliant golden hue that recalled a time when it rained here. No one in the pack recognized him immediately. But an old female, once Raji's mate, quietly rose, approached, and then stopped. Those eyes, unmistakable. It was Raji's son, the child whom Zain had spared, who had been taken away in the night, had returned in the form of a mature male. No pack followed, no declaration. He simply walked with steady steps on the very spot where his father had once slept, where he had once reigned. Zain stood at a distance, watching him, no roar, no approach, just gaze. In those eyes was not fear, but the realization of the inevitable. Another cycle was beginning. And when the sun had completely set behind the horizon, the Sun Pack would once again stand at the crossroads of bloodline, memory, and power, one returning. One ready to fight, and the entire dry grassland would hold its breath, awaiting the first roar. Between light and shadow, between gentleness and absolute power, wild nature ceaselessly recounts the timeless story of life, in the language of instinct. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows across the African savanna, casting a fiery red glow on the cracked earth and bare low bushes. In the distance, two living rocks approach each other, silently but heavily. It's not a predator, not a chase. It's a battle between two mature male elephants in their must phase, a period of heightened hormones that makes them aggressive, impulsive, and ready to fight to the bitter end. One of the males begins to retreat. The easily discernible sign, dark fluid oozing from its temples, urine trickling down its feet, thin but pungent, scattered across the ground as a declaration of dominance. They walk slowly, facing each other without hissing or roaring. But each step carries the pressure of 5 tons of muscle about to collide. The female elephant doesn't choose the strongest in a single charge. She chooses the one that is resilient, persistent, and capable of protecting her offspring in the future. The victor doesn't roar. It simply stands, breathing, head slightly bowed, eyes fixed on the distant female elephant, where a new life can begin. In the savannah, no glory lasts. No victory is eternal. But for creatures like elephants, living for centuries, carrying the memories of the herd, the land, and past breeding seasons, each battle is a small chapter in the continuing journey of life. The sun had set, leaving behind a last red streak peeking through the dust clouds. In the distance, a low roar echoed, not a declaration of war, but a quiet, patient call. The African forest elephant, Loxodonta africana, is the largest living land mammal. A mature male can reach 3.5 meters in height and weigh over 6 tons. They possess large, leaf-like ears that help dissipate heat in harsh climates. Their long trunks, a combined structure of the nose and upper lip, are perfect tools for drinking water, uprooting plants, lifting objects, and even petting or punishing others. Their 2 curved tusks are modified incisors, serving both as weapons and tools for digging, breaking branches, or locating minerals. Wild elephants live in a matriarchal social structure. The leader is an older, experienced female who leads the herd on journeys of hundreds of kilometers. Remembering every water source and every succulent baobab tree during the dry season. After reaching puberty, mature males leave their mothers, living alone or joining temporary male groups, only returning for the mating season. The breeding season is not fixed and can occur year-round, depending on climate conditions and the health of the herd. When a female enters estrus, she emits very subtle chemical signals, but to males in musth, these signals are powerfully attractive. After battles for access, the victor will follow the female for days, patiently, sometimes surprisingly gently, trunk wrapped around trunk, tusks lightly touching forehead, and short, intermittent roars. Mating is brief but intense. Afterwards, the male leaves. The female elephant continues her journey with a life just begun. The gestation period of African forest elephants is one of the longest in the animal world, nearly 22 months. For nearly 2 years, the female elephant will continue to move, searching for food, avoiding drought, crossing rivers, and traversing grasslands. Towards the end of her pregnancy, she often slows down, sometimes gently separating from the herd, finding a flat, secluded spot among the low bushes. And then, on a quiet morning, as the wind has just shifted direction, a creature weighing over 100 kilograms will be born. The newborn opens its eyes. Its trunk is short, its fur sparse, and its legs still trembling. But within a few dozen minutes, it will try to stand up, wobbling but determined, to suckle its first milk, the milk that carries the taste of life, filtered through countless harsh, dry seasons. From afar, members of the herd approach. Their trunks gently touch the calf's back, a silent, welcoming ritual unique to elephants. A new member has arrived, and the cycle of life on the savanna continues. The afternoon cast long shadows across the land. The pale yellow sun cast slanted rays across the grasslands and sparse bushes. In the gentle, warm breeze blowing across the savanna, a mother and calf moved silently. Their steps slow but steady. It was a baby elephant, just a few months old, its thin grayish-brown fur beginning to thicken, its ears flapping in rhythm with its steps. And its short trunk constantly wriggling, exploring the world. The little elephant always walked beside its mother, trying to keep up with the large strides ahead. But today, in a patch of soft ground, it lost a few steps, then a few more, the distance growing larger. Before the mother elephant could turn around, an unusual movement darted across the edge of the bushes. From the dim shadows, lions were silently closing in, their eyes locked on their weakest target. A small, solitary figure, too far from the herd. The grass flattened with each hunting step, no sound. No signal needed. They were accustomed to deadly coordination. The baby elephant still didn't realize the danger. Then, a lunge. A dark golden figure leaped from the shadows, kicking up a cloud of dust. But it wasn't alone. From many directions, golden shadows silently slid out, low to the ground, gliding like a malevolent wind. No sound, no warning, the siege began. The calf walked beside its mother, maintaining its rhythm. But its weak legs made the distance between the two bodies, one large and one small, as fragile as a life-or-death boundary. And when the atmosphere suddenly changed, when the wind shifted, carrying the breath of the hunter, the mother elephant knew. She stopped, standing tall in front of her calf, her body like a living wall. A low growl escaped, suppressed from the depths of her chest. Not quite a warning, but an ultimatum. She rolled. Dust settled on the face of the retreating lion. No further confrontation was needed. The hunters retreated. They weren't injured, but had lost their chance. The scent of victory had vanished. The mother elephant turned back. The baby elephant nestled close to its mother, its trunk wrapped around her front legs as if clinging tightly. She bent down, gently touching her head to its forehead, a gesture so light it defied the strength she had just displayed. Then both turned and slowly moved forward. In the distance, the herd of elephants awaited. Under the crimson sky of the late afternoon, two figures, one large, one small, resumed their journey, each step imprinted on the ground where life and death were separated by only a single, timely roar. The afternoon slowly descended upon the dense forest slope. The last rays of sunlight filtered through the thick canopy, dappling the ground covered with decaying leaves and dry branches. In that space, a silent figure moved, without sound or smell, as if the forest itself were breathing on all fours. A female leopard, her lithe body, with its bright yellow fur bordered in black, resembled shattered sunlight in the darkness. Each step was a calculated move. Not necessarily because she was hunting, but because in the jungle, the weakest must always move the lightest to avoid becoming prey. From afar, the baboon's melodious cry rang out. She stopped, her ears turning towards the sound, her eyes half closed beneath the gently swaying canopy. Then, as if having made her decision, she climbed a leaning tree trunk, lying down between two branches. A perfect fit for the graceful figure of Africa's most skilled hunting cat. The leopard, Panthera pardus, is the world's most widely distributed large cat, found from Africa to South Asia, Southeast Asia, and parts of Central Asia. In Africa, they are a symbol of stealth and agility, a hidden assassin in the jungle. They are medium-sized, 1 to 1.5 meters long, excluding the tail, weighing approximately 30–90 kilograms, depending on the individual and sex. Although smaller than lions or tigers, leopards excel at climbing, hiding, and stalking. Therefore, they often drag their prey up trees to avoid competition with hyenas, lions, or even other leopards. This species is solitary. Except during the lactation period, female leopards live and hunt alone. They mark their territory with urine, claw marks, and echoing calls in the night, sounds that both reverberate through the air and pierce the hearts of those wandering. The mating season doesn't have a fixed time of year, depending on the climate and the stability of the food source. When a female leopard is in heat, she will emit characteristic calls, marking her territory more strongly and accepting the approach of a male. The encounter between two solitary individuals is not a gentle scene. There are growls, light scratches, both provocative and wary. Mating in leopards is quick, short, but repeated several times over several days. Afterwards, they separate as if they had never met. The gestation period for leopards lasts approximately 105 days. The female will find a secluded place, a rock crevice, dense bushes, or a large tree root cavity to give birth. A litter usually consists of 1 to 3 cubs weighing less than 1 kilogram, with their eyes closed and completely dependent on their mother. In the early stages, the mother leopard will frequently move her cubs to avoid detection. She hunts quickly and eats far away, returning without letting her scent carry her prey back to her hiding place. This is the most sensitive stage. Even a slight mistake can lead hyenas, lions, or even pythons and eagles to find and take the life of this vulnerable young animal. After about 6-8 weeks, the leopard cub begins to leave the den, learn to walk, learn to sniff out prey, and start developing survival skills. They will follow their mother for 1.5 to 2 years, learning how to climb trees, stalk prey, and avoid danger. This is the only and most rigorous school a leopard cub can attend. As evening fell through the forest canopy, light filtered through the leaves, painting the lichen and decaying moss at the base of the trees yellow. The wind was gentle. The forest seemed to hold its breath. From the shadows behind a large tree root, 2 pairs of eyes gleamed. one large, one small, watching movement in the distance. A group of baboons were foraging on the forest floor. They dug, picked up fallen fruit, their cries echoing in bursts, like the complacency of those who thought they were safe. But one individual had separated from the group. A young baboon, engrossed in digging in the damp earth for insects, had left the circle of the adults, unaware that it had entered a death trap. The mother leopard approached, slow, low, silent steps. She stopped under the low canopy. The wind was against her. Her scent didn't escape. She narrowed her eyes, hunched over, and then a silent, breathless leap. Just seconds later, it was all over. The baby baboon was firmly gripped in her jaws. Screams of terror erupted. The monkeys shrieked in panic, leaping frantically toward the tall trees. But the leopard had vanished into the forest as if it had never been there. She didn't eat in the same spot. She didn't stop to rest. With her jaws clenched, she returned to where the cub was waiting. No victory, no pride. Just a fresh meal and a first lesson in survival. The cub heard the noise, pricked up its ears, and emerged from the thick ferns. Its eyes met the light, sparkling with curiosity mixed with eagerness. When its mother set the prey down, it approached, not lunging, but sniffing slowly, licking the blood-stained fur and looking up at its mother as if asking permission. No rush, no struggle, just two silent figures sharing a meal of instinct and a fragile peace amidst a world always on the verge of change. On the scorching savanna, a mother elephant leads her calf across the soft ground, each step leaving a deep imprint, each roar protecting the tiny life from lurking claws and fangs. In the dense jungle, a mother leopard silently shares her prey with her cub, without words, without glances, only through presence and instinct. Two creatures at opposite ends of the wild, one large, open and unforgiving. The other, silent, swift, and invisible, yet they share a common role, the first teacher and the last protector. In nature, where life is constantly challenged, maternal love is not weakness, but the most enduring strength. It doesn't need to be known. It doesn't need to be remembered. It's enough that the next generation continues to walk.